So I'm staying in the wellness town of Kurosawa, which apparently John Lennon stayed here back in the 60s, him and Yoko Ono. Actually, it's a lovely spot. It's in the mountains in Japan, in the Nagano region. And it's really lovely. In fact, everywhere I've been in Japan is really lovely. People are really friendly, and it's just a lovely spot. Now here's the mountains, so it's a bit cooler. So it's about an hour from Tokyo, so people from Tokyo come in the summer to escape the oppressive Tokyo heat. Obviously you have an emotional center, but I'm going to call it the emotional brain. That seems obvious, right? Because we're aware of our emotions. And in fact, mental health problems are emotional problems. But we also have what we might think of as a logical or thoughtful brain. So we've got fundamentally two sort of big brain portions, if you like, the emotional side and the logical side. Now, I think that we fail to recognize that these two processes are often running in antagonism. They're not always running on the same page. For instance, the emotional side wants you to do lots of different things. It wants you to, for anxiety, it wants you to run away. For depression, it wants you to hide. For excitement, it wants you to go out and do things. For satiety, for food, it wants you to eat lots. Your emotional side is, to a degree, a big kid. It wants what it wants. But that's not the way that we can live. We just can't live that way, because we live in a society with lots of kind of rules and regulations, if you like. And it's apparent in Japan, because everyone is very polite and very, very conscientious. It's amazing, really. Everyone does what they're told, it seems to me. So you couldn't live here, for instance, being very, very emotional, being driven by your emotions. There has to be a balance. So the logical side, the thoughtful side, has to balance the emotional side. So it has to be balanced. If we have a balanced life, we have a rich emotional world, but also we can live in society, we can get on, we can be successful, and we can do what we want to do. And we're not hampered by excessive emotion. So when we talk about mental health problems, we're talking about excessive emotional control over our life. Anxiety, excessive control of fear over our life. Depression, excessive control of sadness and low mood over our life. OCD, excessive control of fear. Worry, excessive control of fear. So to a degree, we've got to recognize that these two brains are in opposition. And if one is winning over the other, then we're going to be in a bad way, because things are not going to work out how we want them to work out. So, if you feel that you're overly controlled by your emotional world, how would you know? Well, you feel a lot more, and you feel a lot more inappropriately than the general population is generally feeling, right? So you might be really upset by something that other people would just go shrug off, because they're not as controlled by the emotional brain, for instance. Depression is a very, very powerful emotional misregulation, because your emotional brain is telling you, it's making you feel worthless, useless, helpless, hopeless. There's nothing you can do. It's making you feel suicidal. But these are just the consequences of your emotional brain getting out of control. The thoughtful, logical brain has to come back in. So I wanted to flag this up to you, because it's important that we recognize what we're working with. The two brains have to work in harmony. If they're not working in harmony, we're going to have a mental health problem or some other kind of problem. And we are definitely going to have a problem. And so spend a bit of time thinking about which brain is dominant for you, and whether you can recognize the lack of a balance or the existence of a balance, where you can recognize that you're overly emotional, or that somehow you're lacking in the right emotions. It's perhaps the wrong emotion for the wrong time. Just have a think about it, because the first part of solving any problem is understanding the problem. Of course, we can extend this model of emotional brain and logical brain to add a third element, which we could think of as the therapeutic element. So we could say emotional brain, logical brain, wise brain. Wise brain is a slightly more mindful position that enables us to say, okay, hang on, am I in emotional brain or am I in logical brain? And the ability to ask the question automatically puts you into what we might call wise brain, because you're not captured by emotional brain because you can ask the question. You're not captured by logical brain because you can ask the question. You can say, am I in wise brain? Now, emotional brain, hot, a bit irrational, impulsive, it wants what it wants when it wants it. And it really isn't interested in argument, and it's not interested in explanation, and it's not interested in any kind of barrier to its achievements. Logical brain is cool, it's thoughtful, it's rational, it's reasoned, and it's planned. Wise brain is this good for me? Is this in line with my goals and my desires and my wants for myself? Is this helping me to move towards better mental health, or actually is it going to cause me a problem? So wise mind is that sort of, that voice, that quiet voice in your head that we develop through mindful practices, through paying attention, through active self-help, through using tools. We develop this wise brain position, and we try to occupy that as much as possible, because then we can make balanced decisions about what's good for us, or make decisions not to do things which are bad for us. So the three positions now: logical brain, emotional brain, wise brain. Let me share an exercise with you that I developed a few years ago that helps you to get into wise brain. So imagine this. Put your feet flat on the floor so that you can feel your toes move. This is called 10 seconds on your toes, and you'll find an audio probably attached somewhere around about this video. 10 seconds on your toes. Roll your toes from little toe through the toes, feeling each toe on the floor as you go, to the big toe. And then from big toe, roll them again back to little toe. From little toe, again, roll them back to big toe. And from big toe, again, roll them all the way back to little toe. Now ask yourself this question: is there anything I need to do now? Is there any problem I need to solve now? The answer is no. There's nothing you need to do right now. There's no problem you need to solve right now. Because now you're in wise brain. And wise brain recognizes that actually all of your problems that you would think of as problems are typically in the future. The problems you need to solve are typically in the future. Whereas right now, after 10 seconds on your toes, you are where you are. And I'm in Japan, but Kung Fu Panda is Chinese really, but in the words of Kung Fu Panda, the past is history, the future a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. So use 10 seconds on your toes to bring yourself into the present.